All right, all right. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I am Alan. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined today by Teddy and Luke. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, excellent. So, what we're going to do today, I have three games from yesterday's Glenrock Quads that I'm going to review with my panel. But before that, I'm going to give a quick interview to my two guests. So, Luke, let's start with you. When did you first get into chess?
I'm Luke. Hello, everybody. I started sort of seriously studying chess right at the beginning of the pandemic, and studied a lot, had a lot of free time, and now I'm one of the coaches here at ICA. Uh, I'm a little over like 2020 right now, I think, live USCF. And yeah, I'm looking forward to looking at some of these games.
Yeah, that is a very meteoric rise, starting just after COVID around 2020 and getting to 2000 and being one of our coaches, first coach to come onto the show. How are you so motivated to study so hard and get so good?
Um, I don't know if I would call it motivation. Uh, I, I I improved a lot really quickly when I first started, and then I sort of plateaued in like the last year. I think it was just because of COVID. Everybody was, stuck inside. We were doing, virtual schooling, and sometimes you just got to do some, puzzle rush during English class, and the tactics build up over time.
Yeah. So before I continue with the interview, Ito, how are you doing? I see your chat. So unfortunately, it is too late to join because I have to go to the email, send you the link. But what you can do, two of your games are going to be reviewed, our game and your game against Yafim. So please feel free to respond in the comments. Feel free to respond in the comments and we will address you. And if we do end up taking a break, I will try to add you. But yes, thank you. So, Teddy, same question to you. When did you start playing chess?
I started like taking chess more seriously around 8 months ago. But when I was like 4 or 5, I played a bit with my dad. But then I quit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
8 months ago. That's really crazy. So I'm not going to spoil the result yet, but you did play me. And the fact that you did play in the top section, your first tournament at ICA, shows just how meteoric your rise was also, just like Luke. So yeah, I hope that both of you will enjoy the games. And since we have Teddy as a player, the first game that we're going to show is the game that was played between us.
thank you.
All right, so now we see the screen. In this game, I am white, Teddy is black. So my thought process behind this game, behind the opening, so I assumed that the first game I'd play is the first I'd play two games against White, one against Teddy and one against Yafim Traeger, the national master. So I wanted to switch up my openings for both games. So for my game against Teddy, instead of starting with my usual d4, I started with e4. He responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. So far, so good. We then continued c3, knight f6, d3, d6, h3, stopping the pin on bishop g4, and then bishop b6. You want to discuss a little this move, Teddy?
Yeah, sure. I was really sure doing this position. I have many. I'm mostly prepared against D4 instead of D3. But I remember from this YouTuber I watched, the Chester, during one of his tournaments, he played the best move, which was moving his bishop back to sidestepping D4 with tempo on the bishop and B4.
Yeah, yeah.
Also
You
just
totally have the
really,
right idea. You totally have the right idea. Usually, I see people play that move after I play bishop e3, not before. But yeah, you saw it, you read it, and it's fine. It's good. So we continue. Bishop g5, pitting the knight. h6, kicking it off. Bishop h4. Bishop e6. I move the knight. Queen e7, and castles. So this at this moment, this is where the game doesn't flip, but this is where it get interesting. We're out of the opening, and Eddie, seems as if you have a plan here.
I thought that, like, I did not think they were gonna castle. Like, you spent a couple minutes on this move. I thought that you were crazy for castling.
Thought that was
And
crazy for castling.
into
All right, so very
G5.
quickly, let's talk about time. After I castled and Teddy played G5, I was at 42 minutes out of 45. Teddy was at 43. So time is not bad. But let's talk about me being crazy for castling. Did you expect me to not castle at all? Or did you expect me to go queenside?
I thought they were just probably gonna play a waiting move instead of castling into G5 or like maybe Queen E7 or Queen B3.
Luke, your take?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Teddy. It's I think, and I'm sure Teddy will agree with me. The reason I think it looks so crazy to castle this way is because you've already played H3, and Black hasn't committed their king yet. So you have a hook right there on H3, and you're walking directly into G5 and G4. This is actually like almost, okay, maybe not almost identical, but very similar dynamic in actually, Alan, in the lesson you dropped in on yesterday or Thursday. I was just in the middle of teaching a game, Aronian Kramnik in anti-Berlin. I'm sure they've played many of those, but if you search it in the database, you'll definitely find it. Same plan. The combination of H3 and castling when Black hasn't committed their king yet is, yeah, even if the engine doesn't think it's the end of the world, just from a practical standpoint, it's very difficult to play. Especially also with the fact that you've already included Bishop B6 and you're never walking into D4 with tempo. Black just has everything going for them for G5 and G4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the audience and for myself, what would you play here as white? Just not a plan, just one move.
You're polling the audience here, you said?
I'm asking you, Luke. And if the audience has anything to say it. But right now, I'm posing this question to you.
I would probably take on E6, and if
you take on E6,
I want to take on E6 and go D4. Yeah.
All right, takes D4.
Or like as a plan, not immediately.
All right,
say
yeah, as a plan.
Takes knight D4. And there, I think it's just a small advantage for white.
All right, we keep going. So castles, and as we refer to, G5.
Yeah.
And so 42 minutes me, 43 minutes Teddy. So I think a little bit. Bishop G3, queenside castle, B4, H5, takes. So I took a pawn. I'm up a pawn. I will be up a pawn for a while. But what this gets Teddy is he's going to have a clear attack. So was this a purposeful sacrifice? Was this you hung a pawn? What's your thought process behind this move, Teddy?
I thought that, like, if you take, like what I played in the game, which was Rook D G8, I just got the open file, which is really nice.
Yeah, you do get the open file, but as we saw in the game, I do have just about enough pieces to get back. I have a queen that can go. I have a knight on D2. So even though we do have an open file, question is, do you have enough pieces to be able to get in? So now am I able to pin comments? Here's a comment from Goktugbas. Doesn't look so bad for white, since the bishop that is acting as an anchor for an attack can be traded off. And Ito said, rook takes G3 is also a threat. Yeah.
True.
Oh yeah, wait, can't I find a line that I saw real quick?
Go ahead.
So after you play the game, can you go one move forward, which is taking my bishop on E6 with the knight?
All right. Takes.
I'm not sure if like
you want me to keep going?
No, pause real quick. I'm not sure if this is good, but I thought like rook takes G3 right away. But then I thought knight C
All right.
5. I thought they
let's explore it. Rook takes G3.
And then like knight C5, I thought.
Rook takes G3. Knight C5.
Yeah, because everywhere else the
All right, let's start with the
trapped.
All right, let's start with the obvious. What happens if I take your rook?
You can't.
That's fair.
He takes your king.
So knight G5. He takes my king. Knight G5, and then let's keep going. What do you see, Teddy?
I just thought that this wasn't that good because that's like the only square for the knight. And when I move the rook back to like I don't have much attacking chances.
So Goktuk suggested here king h1. So if I go king h1 right away, rook g6. So suggest just to go back, and knight is still trapped. All right. So knight takes. So instead of taking the bishop, takes just to trade, and then I go bishop h4, keeping the pin on the knight. So we keep going. Rook g6, defending. King h1. Now I go just to sidestep. So what I saw is, as the pin that I forgot during the live stream, there is a pin. So my goal was to sidestep the pin, get the rook, and maybe after a while push, stack rooks, and that will be a defense. Luke, thoughts?
Yeah, I like king h1. I don't think you have to. You're saying you wanted to go like rook g1.
Yeah, rook g1, g3, rook g2, stack my rooks on the g file, and maybe play g4 after a while.
So, I guess I have two comments there then. So,
okay.
Again, I don't know if I'd be wanting to go g4 because then, okay, the problem I think with Teddy's pawn sacrifice with, sacking the pawn on g5 is that, it gives up the lever that you can use. You could take advantage of the hook on h3 by playing g5 to g4. So once you give up the g pawn, that's no longer possible. Your move g4 that you want to play voluntarily is reopening that door, right? Because you're going to open up the h file, which I think would, well, if anyone, it's definitely going to favor black. The last thing I would say is that if you want to play g3, I think the rook really belongs in f1 there, because if you want to go g3, of course the natural follow-up there is, well, maybe I can go f4, right? And imagine if you get a situation with f4 takes and g takes, I think the rook is going to be really well situated on f1 there. And if you ever really need to, you can, trade off bishops on f2 there. So the, rook g1 and g3 I think are both plans, but in combination they seem a little bit superfluous, you might say. Like this sort of, both doing the same goal, but they both come with a drawback, so no need to combine them.
Okay.
All right. Goktuk has a question for you, Luke.
Okay.
Goktuk asked, you mean white will create their own attack?
They'll create their own demise, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, they'll create an attack for black.
All right. So yeah, king h1. So I did end up not going with the plan of going g4, which what you said after a while. Regardless, rook h g8, doubling up, and the time here is 33:39. So after my next move, rook g1.
Oh.
So there's this theory that states if you spend too long thinking about a move, it's a bad move. And this move took me from 33 minutes to 26 minutes. So what was I thinking? So first off, well, obviously I was scared of the attack, but I also just really didn't know how to continue. Like I was thinking of a few alternatives. Where should I locate my queen? b3 or f3? Maybe I should get my knight in. The engine recommends g3, but I don't really see the point. So rook g1, not a good move, but yeah, if you think too long on a move, it can lead to the demise. So in this move from Teddy, I didn't understand right away, but I did see as the game went on. So you want to explain this move?
Yeah, actually, after I played, I thought that king b8 was better after queen b3. But I thought this move was good because I want to play queen g7, but then the e6 pawn was hanging out. Like, if you want to start attack on like the a file, my king is not there anymore.
Yeah. All right. So queen b3, knight d8, trying to get the knight around. Rook AF1. This move again took me 6 minutes. Queen G7, taking him 2 minutes. So now the time here, it's a disaster. I have 20 minutes. Teddy has 34 minutes. So now going to defer to the comments. Goktuk said, White is so much better before because after G3, Black's attack is heavily weakened, which allows White to go on their attack. All right, so let's rewind. It's probably going to be, for the sake of time, this will probably be the last rewind that I do. So let's see, where was the moment? King F1. Here we go. So G3 here. Luke, I defer playing to you.
Yeah, I mean, just G3. And I think this is, it kind of goes to show that the initial pawn sack, sacking the pawn on G5 is, it's interesting, but I think this G3 plan sort of just nullifies the attack down the G file because, I mean, you can't break through now, right? And White's going to start putting some pressure on the knight on F6, which is going to probably just cause the H5 pawn to fall off the board pretty quickly. Like right now, it's a threat, for example, right? Like take on F6 and take on H5. Now, okay, maybe you don't even have to do that, but it's always a thing. Combined with the fact that, I mean, the bishop on B6 before, I guess I was saying it was, when I said it was good to have the bishop on B6, my point was, as opposed to it being on C5, because it makes it so that White's counterplay in the center with the D4 is a little bit slower, right? You're never playing D4 with tempo on the bishop. But now that the bishop is on B6, and now that after G3, Black's attack on the king side is sort of, extinguished, the plan A4, A5 is looking pretty nice for White. And to save the bishop, if you have to play A6, well, then there's a new hook, right? B5 then looks a lot more attractive. So I think this would just be, I mean, okay, maybe next game probably have the engine off, but you could see by the engine here, it's just crushing for White. Or at least, of course it's still going to be complicated, but this looks like a dream.
Yeah. All right, maybe one thing I was afraid of how weak the H pawn was, but in reality it's not a threat because this pawn's blocking this pawn. Nothing's ever going to get to the H pawn.
No light squared bishop, right?
I meant the H3 pawn.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, nothing's getting to the pawn.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep going back to that point. So C6, Queen D1. At this point, I have 18 minutes. Teddy has 33. Knight S7. Bishop takes knight. Queen takes knight. Queen takes bishop. Rook G2. Slowly stacking the rooks. H4. G4. So at this point, I felt that I was pretty safe. But even though I was safe, there's still a lot of material on the board, and I have a serious time disadvantage. I have 13 minutes. Teddy has 29. Yeah?
I'm just interested in a move instead of knight G5. Maybe no. The move that was coming to mind was Queen F4, just to forever stop F4. But I'm sure it's probably just about the same as
Queen F4. Where? Right here?
Because I guess F4 is not really a threat at the moment. But yeah, knight G5 looks nice. Yeah.
All right, so Teddy, I haven't spoken to you in a while, even though this is your game. So you have double the time as I do. Yeah. So you have plenty of time to think. But with this structure, I feel safe. So what's your thought process here? You have time. How do you finish me off?
I thought that you would probably spend a lot of time thinking of defending stuff. And then by doing that, I would try to start some kind of play, which I did later on in the game with A5. I'm moving my rook and trying to fight down the A file, kind of.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to that a little bit. Because that is a point that I really found interesting. So I had this attack on the king side, which I didn't think I'd survive. At this point, by the way, I have 8 minutes. He has 22. Now you're just completely shifting the attack to the queen side, which in the moment I thought, you should keep the attack on the king side, but what made you think you had to shift on the queen side? So what did you see on the queen side that'll make me weak? I have a rook on f1, which is pretty much defending this rank. I have a queen on e2, which is pretty much defending this rank. I can maybe not push the pawn, but after you get everything on the queen side, it's safe. So what do you see on the queen side?
I mean, I saw the open file on, like, you can't control it on, like, good pressure down, like, the b file of my rooks and stuff. And I thought that on the king side, like, I'd use all of that, like, the fact that all of your pieces are still defending there, while I would stack up on the queen side and fight there as well.
Luke, any word?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, he's completely winning on, or okay, not completely winning, but it's obvious that he's winning on the king side, or at least he's won the sort of skirmish there. So once you've secured an advantage on one side, you switch over to the other side, and eventually, you know, White's defenses are going to be stretched thin, and it's going to be bad news.
Yeah. Speaking of stretched thin, rook a8.
Yeah.
At this point, I have to think fast. I have right now less than 8 minutes. So what I come up with, just to help defend, knight b3, 7 minutes, 15 seconds left, rook ff8. I play c4 right away, just to try to get this bishop completely out of the game.
Mhm.
Rook a3, c5, bishop runs away. So at this point, even though black's -2, I think I'm down on time, but I can just about survive. I'm still up a pawn, but the bishop's out of the game, which is exactly what I need. f3 to get this rook involved in the defense of the queen side.
Whoops.
Where am I? Rook ff8. All right. So bishop c2, rook a2, queen d1, sidestepping the pin, rook a3. Now at this point, I'm under 5 minutes, so I asked Goktug to finish notating for me, so thank you for that. But I can't give you any more timestamps because at this point, I'm essentially playing a blitz game. So let me ask Luke, what are the things that I should do here?
Well, I mean, the move d4 comes to mind. Concretely, it looks like it's not working because the pawn on f3 is a real issue here. Also, your bishop on f3 is always pinned because you don't want to blunder, you know, queen takes h2 checkmate. Yeah, somehow it looks like there should be some tactic here, given the fact that the queen is lined up with black's king on d7, but I mean, it looks like concretely nothing's working out. On a practical, you know, for a practical attempt, I would try throwing in c takes d6, but I mean, that might only help
I feel like
black's
that would
bishop
just open up the
actually.
black bishop. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like
Teddy.
takes and go like knight c5 check and, you know, pray. But yeah, this is pretty difficult.
Teddy, the evaluation here says -3.5 for you. Even though I was under immense pressure, this game did not feel like a -3.5 for me. Did you see that way during the game?
I thought that, like, I was probably worse during, like, my attack, because, like, after I thought, like, g3, I didn't have much, and I start trying to play on the queen side.
Yeah, like right at this point.
At this point, I thought that after, like, a lot of time and with your old clock, you would probably make a mistake, and I'd just slowly start to outplay you.
All right, so let's finish this game up. Queen c1, queen back, knight back, trying to trap your...
Like,
Go for it.
I realized that if rook c3, there's knight b1.
Rook c3, knight
And then
b1.
my rook gets trapped, I think.
So rook c3, knight b1. And yeah, as you see, evaluation is back to the center. Your rook is gone.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, regardless, takes, queen back, knight here, still trying to trap your rook. And you go here. And here, with less than 2 minutes left on the clock, I take this rook. So what I could have done, engine recommends only move here for me, bishop b1. Would I have found that in the game? Absolutely not. So less than 2 minutes on the clock, I was doomed to fall for something, and that's what I fell for.
You hate to see it.
All right. So before we continue this conversation, Vivon asks, who are these people? Well, I'm the host. I'm Alan. I'm the host of the live stream. I'm joined by Teddy, who we just watched defeat me, plus Luke, who's another coach at ICA. So everyone say hi to Vivon.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So at this point, it's 8:28. So let's just ask Teddy, any last words on this game?
I thought that you did a really good job defending, but like focus too much on it, where like weakened the queen side a lot.
All right. That's very humble. Any thoughts about yourself and your performance?
I thought that I could have done better. I saw rook takes g3 with the pin, but I thought after knight c5 it was more equal, and I thought that I'd attack, but I missed just pawn to g3.
All right. Thank you very much. So at this point now, Teddy, it's your choice if you want to stay on this stream or leave. If you still want to stay, we'll be perfect. We'll be more than happy for you to stay, and you can comment on the other games. So we're now going to take a little commercial break, in which I'll be delivering the commercials to you guys. Meanwhile, Ito, I just sent you a link to your email to the stream. If you want to come on, because now we're going to be talking about your games, you're more than welcome to come on the stream and let's talk. So, my commercial break. Let's see if I can find my commercial. Perfect. So the winter semester is now open. We offer classes in Glenrock and Teaneck, as well as online for those that don't live close by. Registration's all open on ICANJ.net. That's our website, best in the business. In addition, we have tournaments, as Teddy found out, pretty much every Saturday at Glenrock. Very high quality. And yeah, I encourage everyone to sign up. Teddy, any words on the tournament? Your experience overall?
I liked it. Like when I versus 2200, I was like super nervous, but I don't think I calmed down. But like one small mistake that I made, and then I just lost.
Yeah, I got so nervous against him. I accepted a draw on move 2 because he wanted to catch a train.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. That's the end of the commercial break. So Ito said, give me a second. I assume that he's about to come on. But regardless, we have no time to waste. I promise the stream will be over by 8:45 to 9. So let's try to keep this momentum going. Teddy, Luke, this game is between Ito, who will hopefully be joining us soon, versus me again. This is the last game we're going over that has me in it. In this position, in this game, I am black. Let's roll. E4, C6, D4, D5. So I knew that Ito is really good attacking, better than me, which is why I didn't play E5. And Goktu Ganai. Oh, here's Ito. Let me just get him on the stage. Ito, hi.
Hi.
Ito, can you hear? You can hear us? Ito, can you hear me? Ito, you're on mute. You're on mute. Ito, say something.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry, I was just switching accounts because.
Ito, turn off the YouTube stream. You're watching here now. So only watch from here. Don't watch on the YouTube. All right, we'll give Ito time to fix his. So turn off the YouTube. Just watch from the link because it echoes. So while Ito's getting himself fixed, Goktu Ganai prepared a little bit for Ito. Not too much. All right, perfect. So Ito, So as I was saying, Goktuk and I prepared a little bit. I knew I was going to play the Karo Khan against you, and I expect most people to play advanced variation, e5. You took. And then you played bishop d3. So after the match, we spoke a little bit about your move choice, bishop d3 instead of something like knight f3. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, so I like bishop d3 because it sets up bishop f4, which has like a lot of pressure. I think it's opening kind of recommended by my coach, and it's just pretty strong because like it's hard for the bishop on c8 for black to get out anywhere because eventually putting the bishop there also blocks the black's bishop from going to f5, which is basically like the only good square for black's bishop right now.
All right. That one guy said Sicilian hyper accelerated variation on top. All right, good to know. Let's keep going. Knight f6, c3. So usually what I like to do, I just like to blitz the opening, get into the middle game. But this move, c3, made me think, because originally my plan was to get my bishop on g5, but then I thought after c3, should I keep it here? Should I go here? I'll defer. Eden already spoke to it about it. Teddy, I defer to you. Do I keep my bishop here, or do I develop my bishop right away?
I think that it's mostly just going to develop pieces with tempo, so I think that bishop g4 is good. And then if like f3 could just drop back and eventually go to g6 and try to fight for the diagonal again.
So let's think of an interesting variation. Bishop, queen b3.
Yeah, queen b3 is basically the main point. So like you might think that bishop g4 has a tempo, but like when you play queen b3, it attacks c7, which now is basically a tempo for white.
So now something that was playing a little bit in my head, which I didn't want to think about too much because obviously there's a time crunch. Bishop, bishop, takes. That does not go very far.
Yeah.
I also did not calculate that much in my head. But regardless, next time I play bishop g4. All right, e6, pretty much blocking my bishop, but still activating my other bishop. Bishop f4, bishop d6, bishop g3, knight c6. Now we blitz through the opening. Castles, rook e1. So, at this point, after my next move, Ida will have 42 minutes. I'll have 36 minutes. So still not good on time. So let me refer to Luke. Give a quick plan for white, quick plan for black.
Yeah, so the typical plan here is to play for like a6, b5, b4, this sort of minority attack with, colors reversed from the typical Queen's Gambit version. One comment, just real quick, on the move Queen c7. When you play that, you see the engine sort of pop up for white. And I think that's precisely because it's sort of, standing between two plans. On the one hand, you're never really putting any meaningful pressure on this bishop on g3 by lining up this battery with the queen and bishop on this diagonal, because, of course, the bishop's always defended by two pawns. So it's sort of a waste of a tempo, because if you want to move the queen, you can use the fact that because white has already developed their queen's bishop from c1, it leaves the b2 pawn undefended. So
just go to b6?
So, well, like, you want to take on g3 first. I wouldn't do it here, because then you give white the open h-file again before they've committed their king. So I would just castle. White probably, well, if they castle, then I would definitely take on g3 and either play queen b6 or this plan with a6 and b5. But, the queen looks nice on c7, but I think it's just a little bit sort of the wrong square.
Wrong square. All right. Thank you, Luke. Castles. rook e1. And here, I just decide to take the bishop. H takes, which I kind of expected f takes, but it's all right. Rook e8, knight e5, knight takes, d takes, knight d7. So now here I'm thinking to myself, this bishop is blocked. At this point, there's nothing for it to do in this diagonal. So my plan is knight here, fianchetto, and then play for something like maybe push the pawn or d5. So this was sort of my plan. So then Ito played a move, which I spent time thinking of, but really surprised me. Why'd you play queen h5?
I couldn't really think of a better move. It attacks the pawn and maybe like a mate later, but like it also protects the pawn at the same time. I could have also ignored it like by playing, I don't know, any other move, because after like knight takes e5, then I could play bishop takes, take the pawn with check, and then fork with queen h5. But then I would like lose the bishop for the knight, and I wanted to keep my bishop. So I just thought that like once you play g6, it kind of weakens your positions because there's holes, and like I would be able to just my queen would be more active than more of your other pieces.
At the same, I actually think that g6 strengthens my position because after queen's trade, and we get into the endgame, I have an open square on g7, which can get me active. So I'm actually thinking it strengthens my position. So let me refer.
Oh yeah,
So let me
yeah,
refer.
right.
Yeah.
That would be good. That would be good, like in an endgame when the queens are exchanged. You're right, because you can eventually play f6 and then e5 after the pawns are exchanged. But I think while like the queen's on the board, when like e5 is protected, my queen has a spot on like h6 and f6, so it's pretty weak for black.
All right. So g6, queen goes back. Knight c4. It's knight c5. Knight h3. So let me defer to either Luke or Teddy. Right here,
Yeah.
I suspect this to be a very innocent move. I go from 26 minutes to 26 minutes. I did this without hesitation.
Okay.
What's wrong?
So I think the main strategic point you're overlooking in this game is the fact that your dark squares are just catastrophically weak. Like this move g6, I think pretty seriously weakens your king side. Because you have all your pawns on light squares and a light squared bishop, which means that not only is your bishop going to have very little scope, but also the dark squares are going to be very weak. So this trade of giving up the knight, your only remaining minor piece that can fight for the dark squares, giving up that piece for a light squared bishop, now you're, sort of just handing white this plan of putting the knight to c2 to d4. Knight's never going anywhere from there, and you have no pawn breaks. None at all, right? So once the knight lands on d4, plans like f4 and an eventual f5 start looking pretty risky. Combine that with the fact that, you said earlier, oh, I'm surprised he didn't take on g3 with the f-pawn. Well, now maybe, in a distant future, there's a king h2, rook h1 type of idea, which can be a little bit frightening. So just an idea. Maybe it's...
definitely.
Yeah, but...
definitely.
Yeah, I think strategically this is a very, you're walking a tightrope here.
Hey, can I say two things real quick?
Of course, Teddy.
I don't think I also should have made that trade because I think their knight was better than the bishop. I mean, like the g6 pawn prevents the bishop from seeing anything, and like I think that a6 to prevent knight from going before, or maybe just try and block out their bishop was good. And also I think that earlier, took with the h pawn instead of the f, since they already played the rook fe1, they'd have to spend another rook move putting it back on f1 to try to fight for the file again.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, especially with what Luke just mentioned, the possible plan of king here, and perhaps something like f4. So yeah, I really see where you're going with this, Teddy. Let me just clear my arrows. All right, we move.
You can also just
Take.
right
Yeah.
if you want to get clear of all of your arrows at the same time.
What's I press?
You can do like the opposite. I forget which side clicks for the arrows, but you can press the opposite side and it gets rid of all the arrows.
All right. Getting my bishop out. Knight back. Push. Takes. Takes. Knight e3. Rook ac8. So I'm thinking to myself, if I can get the bishop somewhere in this diagonal, get this rook here, and get here, I'll be fine. So now let me defer to Ito. We trade of queens. What's your plan?
So I think that like after we trade queens, f6 and d6 are both very weak, and you have nothing to stop it because of like the outpost. So none of your rooks will be able to like take the knight when e5 is there. And also, I feel like the knight on f6 could limit your pieces to be very stuck, and it would save me time to put my rooks into the right place. And there's also a large threat of forks in different times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is definitely the threat of forks. Thankfully, I'm better at managing the time at this game than my game against Teddy that we just saw. So if there's a fork, I should be able to see it. I still have 21 minutes on the clock. But yeah, this knight on f6, it's deadly. There's nothing here that can stop it, except for perhaps a rook sacrifice for me, which wouldn't be a positive sacrifice. It'll be more like trying to save face. So, we move. Rook a d1, rook e d8, f4, which justifies that decision of capturing with the h-pawn, b5, trying to defend the pawn and free up the rook, rook d6, bishop c6, rook e d1, takes, takes, rook c7. So, I know I should have kept the rook on c8 because allowing this rook onto d8 essentially cost me the game. So let me refer to the panel. If I can't get this rook off, what should I do? How should I advance?
Oh, oh yeah, you can go first.
All right.
Let's
Yeah,
start with Luke.
probably you want to bring your king in f8 to e7 just to shore up some of those squares. And it's going to be this is one of those positions where you sort of just have to sit, I think, because white's probably going to go put the knight either, again, from c2 to d4 or from g4 to f6 potentially. So you just need your king participating a little bit. And it's going to be up to white to prove they can break through.
Yeah,
All right.
I was gonna say the same thing because, like, I don't think your bishop can. Maybe your bishop can be better on d3, but it won't really be much better. And your rook is probably best just covering the back rank, and you need to bring your king.
Yeah. Teddy, you agree or you have something else to add?
Yeah, I also think that the bishop on d3, like, I don't know what Luke said, like, having the bishop that controls these squares is very important because it always stops the rook from going there. And I think that most users have to like prevent the knight from going in because that's probably the main trouble if like knight c4 can happen. So maybe like h4.
Also, I'd like to add that Ari, if your YouTube name is your name, then we know it's you. So I don't always have to say that it's you, because it says here that your name is Ari Lukatsky. So I don't need to worry about saying that it's you. But we appreciate your comments. Thank you. So, we move. Rook c7, knight g4, king g7. So now Ito has clear threat.
Yeah, I should have
One?
played rook d8 right away. It's much stronger.
Instead of knight g4?
No, I mean like uh. Oh wait, never mind. I thought I played something else. I thought
Yeah, you did play.
no. I think I should have played rook d8 first because now you have you had a chance to put your rook on c8 to stop my rook from going to d8.
So yeah, the plan is clear. 1, 2, 3, and after my king goes away, he can either rook here and mate, or push the pawn. So I thought, with this, that I had time to salvage myself a draw. So once the rook goes to d8, then c8, I thought I had time to do 1, get the bishop out of the attack, 2, give the check, 3, go back, and 4, perpetually check with the rook, and perhaps salvage a draw. So I thought I had just enough time to do that in the game, but I made a little miscalculation. Bishop here, knight there, I give the check, he goes there, but now that he's attacking my bishop, there really is nowhere for me to go. So he attacks, he gets the pawn in, I have to sacrifice, and from here, there's pretty much nothing else to analyze. I tried to play a little bit, but in the end, I resigned. Win for Ito. All right, Luke, you have the last word.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Ito, you have some good amount of experience in this position, and yeah, this exchange Caro-Kann structure is, I think, one that you really got to study. Like, well, it's basically just a Carlsbad structure, right? And it's one of those things that you just sort of have to look at a lot of grandmaster games and sort of have a good idea of the plans. And if you don't, your opponent has a lot of room to just slowly outplay you. And I think that's what happened here.
Teddy, last word.
Yeah, not much to say because I usually don't get these positions because I play the advanced Caro-Kann and I play e4 and e5 most of the time. Yeah, I sort of agree with what Luke said. It's also a lot about knowing plans and thoughts in the mid game after you finish the opening.
All right, Ito, last word on this match.
I don't really have too much to say. I think you played somewhat good in the opening, except for locking up your bishop. And I think everything was fine until you started giving yourself some weaknesses and exchanging the wrong pieces.
My last word is that Ito's last word is much more humble than he said back at the tournament. His word at the tournament was, Alan played very good, but I'm just better. And honestly, that's probably a good analysis of this match. Speaking of better, we now move to the national master, Yefim Treger. So Yefim actually commented on this match, and I was able to get it on just before the live stream. Ito, I did not see your comments yet, but since you're on, you can give your comments to yourself. Luke, Teddy, my challenge to you, to debate Yefim. So as you see here, I have a bunch of comments from Yefim. So if there's something that you don't agree with, I'd love to have you try to debate him. You get it?
Sure.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
We move. And I'm going to take a much more back seat because this is no longer my game. I'm going to try to have you three discuss more. E4.
Who's playing with
and
white?
also, yeah?
Who's playing with white and who's black?
Oh, Ito's white, Yefim is black.
No,
And
I
also,
was black. Yeah, Fim was
oh,
white.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Yefim was. You know what? Since Ito's here and Yefim's not, I'm going to switch the orientation. So yeah, Ito's black, Yefim's white. Also, especially Ito, since it's your game, please feel free to just stop me if I'm going too fast and there's something you want to highlight. Same with you guys. All right, we have Yakov, another coach here. All right, so we move. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, e6, bishop b5. Nothing interesting. Just the opening.
I have some.
Yeah.
I think I should have played like knight d4 here or something. Because after I play like knight 97, I just don't think it's right.
97 is still theory. This is supposed to be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think this is a tough variation to play just in general. If you
Yeah, but
like, if this isn't your main opening, it's a tough one to sort of
Yeah,
wing
but
it. You know?
yeah, I looked a lot. I looked a lot through with like computers and coaches, so like I kind of know some ideas in this opening
Mhm.
and variations.
All right, Ito, I'm going to defer you to the first comment from Yafim. So here he played bishop b5. Last time says he played bishop c4.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
comment says only I can read it because the comments are built for you guys. He said, "I'm improving my play for my first game with Ito. In the last quad with him, I played bishop c4, knowing later bishop b5 to trade the bishop for the knight." So, all right, we move. 97, e5.
Oh yeah, here's when I
Which
should have played knight d4 because I wasn't really thinking. I just played a6 without thinking, and then I missed the next move. But I guess the point of knight d4, it doubles your pawns, but like if he takes, then your position is just better.
Hmm.
Black to black.
So, look, e5. Obviously, see, the engine gives advantage to Ito, but we can't read into this because Yafim is known for playing these offbeat, unpredictable, risky openings. So obviously, we know the problem with e5. The pawn is unprotected, but give Yafim, other than these weak squares, other than these strong squares for Yafim, give him another advantage, Luke.
I don't think there is another advantage. I think it's just not a great move. I mean, queen c7, right?
All right,
And
Teddy.
you're gonna have to
would
give
you
up the
like-
light squared bishop for the knight. Queen c7 and knight g6 is gonna probably force white to give up that light squared bishop for the knight in a way where black can recapture with the queen, and then it sort of begs the question of why'd you bring out your light squared bishop if you're just gonna give it away in a way that's just gonna help black, right? I think it's a little bit dubious.
Teddy, would you like to give the National Master benefit of the doubt?
No, I don't think so. Because after like what Luke said, after like queen c7, I'm targeting the pawn. Like if they could defend it, they would play d4. But that would remove the defender if the knight took, because the e5 pawn would be hanging. And even though you get good squares from it, it's like how are you going to take advantage of it? And it's just like a very weak pawn, and like the light squares around it now are also very weak.
All right, we move. A6, knight e4. A nice trap. The bishop is a Trojan horse. If you take it, you'll get mated by knight d6, which is a beautiful smothered checkmate. Comment from Yafim Trigger. So, knight g6, bishop takes, pawn takes, castle, bishop e7, rook e1, castle, d3, queen c7, knight g3, rook d8, queen e2. So, let me defer to Luke. Plan for white, plan for black.
For white, probably you want to go like h4, h5 at some point. Obviously, immediately is a little bit difficult to coordinate, but I like this plan of just really putting all your weight behind the e5 pawn. It's going to make it very difficult for black to move, in particular the bishop on c8.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of that bishop, Yafim said to you, Ito, your light squared bishop is bad because it cannot break through the massive pawn border created by a6, e6, c5, c6, and d7 pawns. What are you thinking? How can you break through or give yourself another advantage?
So I looked over this with the engine a couple of times. So basically, a plan here is eventually to give up the c5 double pawn, play c4. But like first, I can play b5 at some point and then c4, but I wouldn't take the pawn back. Instead, I would play c5, c6 to c5, and then I would be down a pawn, but white would have double pawns, and I think that it's just if it was like an endgame, the pawn structure is basically the same, even though white has an extra pawn. And it also just the bishop will have a great spot on b7, and it'll be powerful during the whole game.
All right. So, b5, trying to break through. Knight h5. So, even though Engine does not like this move, Yefim has a plan. An attack the black king. For this purpose, white wants to trade dark-squared bishops and prepare a move bishop g5. A knight, after trading, will cover the f4 square. So, bishop b7, which is trying to make an attempt at getting the bishop out. c4 to completely stick the bishop, but I
Yeah.
forgot about his response.
This was a mistake, obviously, because of queen d7.
Queen d7, there's no good defense for the pawn. Bishop takes,
Could you go
takes,
back a couple
takes.
moves? So I was, yeah, back one more move. Oh, one more. Where was no after queen d7? Actually, no, never mind. I was thinking rook d1, and then after b takes f4, black has tripled pawns, but then like the actually no, it does work. Why not rook d1, and then if pawn takes pawn d4, and then black has tripled pawns.
Rook d1 right now.
Yeah.
So rook d1.
Oh no.
Let's see.
Yeah, it might work because b takes. Sorry. Can't really see the rotation point. Yeah, basically.
So it says b takes c4, then it just says d4.
Yeah,
C takes d4.
and then like
Rook takes.
I guess. Yeah, but maybe
Queen c7 it recommends for you.
Yeah. I mean, it says it's
All right,
losing by
we move.
sweep.
Yeah.
No, you can go ahead.
It says you're up. So takes. Up a pawn. Knight f4. Rook d7. Rook ac1.
So right here, he
So
offered.
Yefim said, yeah?
Oh no, you can go first.
Yeah. All right. So let's discuss Yefim's comment. Despite losing his pawn, white has a tremendous compensation since black bishop is doomed. In this moment, I offered Ito a draw, but he declined. That is not a wise decision because he did not see how to play further. He has to give up a c5 pawn for activating his bishop, see a variant to his next move. So we're not going to go into the variant due to time, but Ito, let me ask you a question. Not chess-wise, purely psychological. So, National Master offers you a draw. You're up a pawn, but it's hard to say no because of how good he is. I know I want to get 1800, but were any of these thoughts running through your mind?
So basically, I have a reason for this stuff, and basically it goes like, if you're gonna keep accepting draws from higher rated players, you're not gonna know how to actually beat them when you become their level, because you're gonna keep accepting their draws, and you're only gonna know how to like beat them and get better if you decline draws and play for the win. So it's always better to like, even if you lose at the end, to go on, because let's say you're playing someone like a couple hundred rating points higher. If you keep accepting draws when they offer, it obviously means when a higher rated player will offer you draw, it's because they're scared of losing. Clearly, they wouldn't, if they think it's a tie, they wouldn't just offer a draw. So that was another reason, because I knew he thought he was losing, and that's the same thing that happened last week when I tied him. He also offered a draw when he was in a worse position, and so that's just my reasoning for why I declined.
Yeah. To add on to that, I heard him offer a draw because Teddy and I, when we were playing, we saw you right next to us. He offered a draw, and you spent lots of time thinking about the next move, a continuation, and you were down on time. So it seems as if it did play some effect on you.
Oh yeah, that's all true, and also like the thought of getting to 1800. It would have probably been at this point better to accept the draw because I would be able to get 1800. But at the same time, there was a chance I could win, and I think
Definitely.
it's 1 point better for Black.
Yeah. All right. Rook c8, g4, knight g6, takes, h3, rook d3, and at this point, white's slightly up, rook e3, rook takes, pawn
Yeah.
takes,
Yeah,
rook
I
f8.
didn't really understand Rook E3 because it's not. It might look bad because White has double pawns and E3 is very weak. So the idea is basically like I can't really attack that pawn that much, but I feel like he had much simpler ways to like maybe like King G2 or something. I don't think he had to play Rook E3 because it's just going to be harder.
Hmm.
And
Teddy,
also,
before we continue, any thoughts on what you've seen? Yeah?
uh,
Rook e3 is sort of a mistake because with the double pawns, so then like I can get the open file later. But I also think that I would have definitely taken the draw because even though like black is slightly better just from tactical chances, it's like very hard position to play, especially with your bishop blocked down and only hoping that like one of the only ways to get back alive is if they take on before, which is like they don't have to. I mean b5.
Hmm. Well, you know what? While we're on the topic of the draw offer, Luke, thoughts on the draw offer, either rejecting, position overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point here to offer a draw. I mean, I guess it makes sense, even if, the computer is going to give an advantage to black. You have to play weird moves to sort of prove anything here. And I think with the doubled pawns, it's pretty difficult to push for any sort of real advantage, especially, even though Yefim Traeger is a tricky player in the opening. He's an old player, experienced player. He knows how to draw these types of positions if he has to.
Yeah, he's
I would probably just take it just because you always run the risk of going wrong here as black, and I don't know if it's really the type of position that personally, I would want to sit there for another hour and a half trying to grind out some sort of advantage, but I could understand why,
hour and a half. It's only like 10 minutes left. Only like 10 minutes left at the point.
well, I mean, yeah, I didn't see the time, but
no, I think
well, 10 minutes left actually changes things. Wait, how much time, Ito? How much
I
time do you
think
have?
it would take around an hour if we played it until the end.
Yeah, but I definitely understand why you wanted to push on, because you could always bail out here if you really have to.
All right. Let me ask all three of you. Do you think Yefim was trying to get into Ito's head with a draw offer? Like psychologically?
I
No?
don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
All right.
All I
So,
think
let's
is that I think he's like kind of a bit scared because the same thing happened last time. I guess I'm more consistent, or at least I am in the 2 games that we played because he ended up like blundering a pawn and then offering a draw because he doesn't want to lose the position.
all right. So rook takes, pawn takes, king f8, king f2, king e7, knight e2, f6, knight e4, pawn takes. And at this
Yeah,
point,
Wow.
White
bishop
is
is
completely
still suffocated.
yeah. White is completely better for a couple of reasons. Black is up 1 pawn, but he literally has like 3 pairs of doubled pawns, and the bishop is basically acting as like hardly a pawn in this position because it's locked in.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
thinking
that's what
maybe
I was. Yeah.
a5 bishop h6, but it would take a long time.
So knight takes and rook c7, king, knight e4 check,
I
king
was also
e7,
thinking he
c5.
offered a I mean I offered a draw if you could go back a couple of moves before this. No, rook, no, could you go? forward. Yeah, a little more. I think after king e2, I offered a draw, and he told me to play my move first. I think if I played something right, like a little bit better, I don't know, maybe e4 just to get the knight out, and then c5. I think he might have accepted a draw, but then after king d6, he doesn't want to draw.
Can I say something real quick?
Go for it.
I think that if I remember correctly, like the national master had less time than Ito, and maybe he said player move first so that Ito would take more time on the move, so his clock would get lower.
Yeah, so back to the psychology that I was referring to. All right, Ito, Yakov has a question for you. So let me just pull it up. Yakov,
Yeah,
is it this position?
I think I was just rushing, and I don't really know what else I should have done because there was no way of stopping him from taking c5. So I just thought that I might as well get a pawn for. And also, like the rook, I don't know, can check at some point or cut off the king at some point. It doesn't really help, but
All right. So yeah, we go back, we go forward, c5. Ito tries to break through, and eventually he gets something, but take, rook here, bishop c4, rook a4, bishop d5, rook
yeah,
takes,
I figured out a way
bishop
to kind of
takes.
do it. It's like it's still losing obviously for black, but what is Goptik saying? You ask someone to make
You ask
make
someone
their
to make their move before they offer the draw because they might blunder in that one move.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, just putting it in the comment. What were you saying about this position, Ito?
Anyways, like it's still losing, but there's a chance with low time that black could be fine because with the king on f6 and a better spot for the rook, it's possible to hold a draw. See, it was like 3 or 4 points, and now it's just 1.5.
Yeah. All right. So trade it off. Rook d7, king c3, rook d5, b4, king f6, h4, rook d1, king c2, rook h1, rook c4. So, Ito, he did not take the pawn. Yefim
Yeah,
said if he takes the pawn, he loses because
yeah.
rook takes. Yeah. All right, we keep going. g5, h5, g6,
Now
b5.
it's a tie, basically, in my opinion. With like less than 3 minutes on the clock, it's not. I don't think it's winning for either side.
Pawn takes, rook takes, king f5, rook b4, rook h8, king d2, e4, king e2, king e5, rook d4. And at this point, position's dead even. Rook h2 check, king f1, rook b2,
I missed
rook
the
d6.
I missed the winning move, taking the pawn with the rook. And yeah, I had less than a minute, so I'm pretty upset that I didn't find that move because even though I had less than a minute, it's something that I should be able to find. I was too focused on going for the draw and just ended up blundering. Yeah, now it's still a tie, but after King D, yeah, now it's. Uh, I don't think this is the end position. The end position. Wait, did Yefim send you this game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you. I sent you the correct PGN. Could you go back a little? He missed some moves. So first, oh yeah, could you put the move back a little more? Um. Can you go back one move for black? I played. No. Rook d6, and then I played check. King f2. No, I played check, and then king f2. Then I checked him again. Then he played king g3. Then I played. I attacked the pawn. I can't really see, but I think it's rook e2. He
And then he
played
took.
no. For some reason, he played king g5, king g4. Then I took, and then he took, and then I played. It's a draw after I moved the rook to h4, h3. But I played king d5. Sorry, not rook h3. I can't see what I'm doing. Yeah. Now just after I attack the rook with my king, he plays b7, which is completely winning.
Yeah.
Because now
All
I
right.
can't even take on c5. Yeah, sorry, I can't like. It's like the board is flipped or something. It shows like there's two h's on my side. But yeah, it's completely because I can't even take on c5.
All right. So I was going to ask everybody for last words, but at this point, we are well over. We're like 10, 20, 30 minutes over, but we had great conversations. Next time, if we have this many high quality games, I'll probably limit it to 2. And if we get bottom section games, then we'll do more. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining the stream. And I'll see some of you guys next weekend. And we'll hopefully have more guests, different guests on. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And remember, winter semester is now open. Register for classes only on ICANJ.net, best website in the business. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Everyone.